All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. As always, I'm joined here with the captain, Mr. Andy Full. And as always, I'm the host, Bailey Egbert. What's going on, dude? Busy couple days.
Spent, I think, is the best words I could use to describe the feeling that I feel right now.
So what you're saying is we might have to struggle keeping you awake for this one.
Maybe my hands hurt, my fingers are swollen, my face is sunburned. Been catching a ton of smallmouth bass, and we had Mr. X2 on the boat this morning and yesterday, and saw some giant smallmouth get caught, and it's shaping up to be a really, really fun spring over here in Buffalo on Lake Erie. And you got to catch your PB yesterday on my boat, which made me extremely happy. We've only been trying to do that for like 3 years now, and it finally happened. And it was a grown one.
It was full grown. It was a fun day yesterday with Sean, Mr. X2, as you mentioned. But buddy, you have a special job being on that lake every dang day, because
it's a special place.
It sure is. But dude, it was pretty funny. So we caught the crap out of him yesterday, but we get in the boat. We'll go through the story quick because we have a great episode today with Mr. ADAM RASMUSSEN, who's Midwest hammer. I've heard many good things about Mr. ADAM RASMUSSEN, not just as a guy, but also as an angler.
Just real quick, it seems like the Northern boys are taking over bass fishing, and it's awesome.
Yes. I'm here for it. I'm all here for it, especially specifically Midwest.
The stigma for a long time was that the Northerners can't keep up with the Southern guys, and they sure are proving it wrong.
Yeah.
So it's fun to watch.
Yeah. I've gone on conversation. I talk with old Keith Tuma all the time on the phone, and Bartuzik has been telling us to get Adam on the show. I think a while ago we were trying to get a show set up, but Keith was like, dude, now you really have to get him on the show. He just won an open. Like, you got to do it. So we're like, let's get him on the show here, talk about his win on Wheeler. So congrats again to him. We'll talk about it here in a second. But dude, that we were joking because we first got on Lake Erie, and you and Sean are throwing swim baits, drop shot, your typical stuff that works really well out there. And I'm sitting there horsing around with like random weird techniques just to try to find something different because it's a fun fishing day. We're experimenting. And I'm like, screw this. After like an hour and a half of not catching anything, trying to throw something funky for like a big bite or two.
Now, don't give up the juice on what you did, because we're keeping that a secret for a little bit.
I wasn't gonna, but now you know, they're telling people that there was juice.
There was juice, and we're discovering more and more juice on the daily. But this one, and I'll tell you this, Bailey, the juice did not work today at all.
Well, then it's not juice.
Yeah, but it was juice yesterday, so there will be a time and place for it. The lake's just getting too clear for it now. We had 25, 26 foot of visibility today. It was wild. Clarity. Yeah.
Damn. But yeah, literally it just decided, screw this. What am I doing? I'm just going to pick up a drop shot. Threw on did a little bait modification that Andy and Sean didn't have going. I think it was my second cast of the drop shot. I just feel a bite, super subtle. I lean in, I'm like, it's like a pound and a half, dude. It's super small. And then next thing you know, it's just screaming. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not that small. And then I'm just like, we can't see it. I'm like, maybe it's a 5. I don't know. It doesn't feel that giant.
And I saw it on Mega Live, and I looked at you, and I was like, dude, you got a big one. You're like, no, it's a pounder.
And as the thing gets closer, we're like, this feels pretty big. And then it literally just takes not a nosedive, but like just points its head to the sky and just starts coming to the surface. Thankfully, Andy had the net, because I was telling him, like, dude, I got this thing. It's fine. Like, it's not a big deal. It's not a giant. And as soon as we see it, we're like, oh my God. We're screaming, and Andy nets it. And we get it. Andy and I just look at each other just like, what?
Yeah, it was magical. It was like, I think that was our 4th or 5th over 5 pounds in the first 2 hours.
Well, you and Sean.
Yeah, me and Sean. And like me and Sean had a double up. I think mine was like 5 3/4, and his was 5.5 on like 10 minutes into the day. It was just a silly day. But your fish literally put the icing on the cake, I don't think.
Yeah, you're like, oh my God, dude, it's definitely a 6, but I don't know if it's like there. Like, don't. Yeah. We had that week. mutter on the idea that it's potentially a PB. I'm like, I don't know, man. It might be close, but I don't think it is. And you put it on the scale, and you're like, oh my god, it's hitting 7-1, and I literally like I deck, and you were like had tears in your eyes. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's 6-14, which was like still awesome.
Yeah, we reweighed it like 7 times, and it was like 6-14 every time. It sucked, but it was awesome at the same time.
Yeah.
Stupid
Super
weights.
cool day. We'll talk more about it at the end of the show, but more importantly, we got an awesome guest for today, Mr. Adam Rasmussen. What's going on, dude?
What's up, guys?
Congrats.
Hey, thank you.
It's we are loving the northern trend that is going on. Not only just the opens, but just every trail. Just watching these northern boys go down and hammer them.
Yeah, yeah, we're trying.
Doing
Well,
more
dude,
than trying, bud. You guys are kicking it.
you're having a great start to the year, man. Especially just from staying consistent. You and Tuma, there's a few other guys that are just seeming to have a great start to the open season that are from Midwest.
Yeah, I know. I didn't start fishing down south until was it 2021. I did 2 divisions in the opens, and I had an okay year that year. But then last year, like I just think it was too much of a mind game, and felt like I didn't have the confidence. And this year, I'm like, I don't want to know anything about any lake. I'm just gonna go show up and fish and do like you're supposed to do it. Like feel like you're doing the right thing, and that's what I started doing this year. And outside of Eufaula, hasn't been a bad year. So we got a few more to go, and yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, we keep the train rolling.
Yeah, a fellow Midwesterner, Mr. Keith Tuma, frequents our show quite a bit, and that's one thing we talked about recently with him is putting respect to the guys that are doing it the right way. Like and when I say right, I don't mean that it's like there's people doing it illegally, but guys that are doing it pure, like yourself, that are going in there, no info, no nothing, just doing it with pure instincts. And there's a lot of respect to doing it that way.
For sure, yeah, that's how I'd like it to be anyway. I mean, I might get a little bit of info, but like I definitely don't rely on any of it. Like, how am I supposed to fish somebody else's memories? That doesn't work. Like, I can't even fish my own memories half the time. You're better off just, if you're good at it, you can trust your gut, and that'll lead you to the right decisions.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened on Wheeler. Like, I had a terrible practice, but I spent a lot of time looking. I stared at my hummingbirds a lot and graphed a lot of stuff and found areas where I thought they might show up because they weren't there during practice.
Right.
And it all came together and it worked out. So
yeah, we're gonna get to Wheeler. We're gonna get to Wheeler here in a second, but because you are new to the show, it's your first time on Serious Angler. What we like to do is throw it all the way back to the beginning and just how did you even get to start in fishing, and who is to blame for this lifelong obsession?
Oh, I blame my dad. Man, I think I was, from what I've been told, obviously I don't remember. I was 3 years old and I was in a boat and loved it, and all I wanted to do was fish. Sorry, my screensaver keeps popping on here. So I'd blame him. And growing up, like my mom would always be like, "Are you ever going to do anything besides fish? Like all you do is think about fishing. That's all you talk about. That's all you do. That's all you know." And I'm like, "No, like absolutely not. That's what I want to do for a career." And I bought my first boat. I was 15, and I bought a 17-foot Lund Pro V tiller. And that was my first boat. Didn't have a driver's license. My parents would drop me off at the ramp. I'd go fish. And then gradually moved up from there. When I was 18, out of high school, I started guiding. Did that part-time. Went to college a little bit. College wasn't for me. I'd rather work and make money. So I took on the guiding full-time. That was in central Wisconsin. Fast forward a bunch, I fished a lot of walleye tournaments. I didn't bass fish when I was younger. I walleye fish. My dad got me into walleye tournaments, and that's what I did. So I moved to Door County probably, oh man, it's probably been 6 years, 7 years. I got my captain's license and completely started over up here. Got into the bass fishing. I always found myself bass fishing on my free time for fun and enjoyed it. I'm like, why am I fishing walleye tournaments and doing this stuff? Like, I have way more fun bass fishing. So started learning more and more. Fish, numerous tournaments throughout the Midwest, and then I'm not getting any younger, so I'm like, screw it. I got the opportunity to go fish some opens. I've always dreamed about going to the Classic. I've watched the Bassmaster Classic every year since I was a young kid, and I'm like, man, that would be so cool to walk across that stage. And obviously the Elite Series, those are my two goals. And I'm not getting any younger. I want to go and do it. So I just took a chance and put in a lot of work and time, and it's hard, but I still work, full-time guiding. I haven't given up on that. So I'm doing that. I just got done with the guide trip. Like, I haven't had a break in 3 weeks. I went from Bugs Island back home to fish a tournament in Sturgeon Bay, down to Eufaula, came home from that. I had 1 day off and my phone rang off the hook all day. Today I started guiding again. Got a guide tomorrow. So yeah, it's
You're living the life, buddy.
yeah, it's a dream, right? But I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it. So
hey, it's going well for you, because the folks may not be able to see it quite well behind you, but dude, you have literally the coolest man cave I've ever seen.
yeah, this is not mine. This is my father-in-law's, but I kind of inhabited this portion over here.
Just can you go up real fast with the computer?
Yeah, there you go. There you
go. This man cave came from building commercial Burger Kings. So
okay, that explains it.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask what the story was behind that road sign.
Yeah,
he just loves Whoppers, right? Like, who doesn't like a good Whopper?
My wife owns a commercial contracting company, so there's a lot of cool stuff. On the other side, we've got a bar, and there's an industrial kitchen back here, and it's a pretty cool place to hang out. Bailey, you've been here. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's freaking sweet.
I'm lucky enough to park all my crap in here and make a disaster. So it's kind of a mess right now.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's freaking awesome, especially making the jump, because it seems like it's going well for you. And we're going to get into Wheeler, but we talked about it briefly in the introduction of the Midwest guys. You're seeing more and more of you, more Northerners that are, in the top ranks when it comes to select tournaments, but also just consistency as well in the South. Whether it's the Opens or it's Toyotas or what have you, you're seeing a lot more of it. And what do you think from your experience so far fishing in the South has allowed you to adjust well to what you experienced from the North compared to when you had South?
Man, I don't know. Like, I would say a big thing that benefits me, and this is like from when I fish walleyes competitively a little bit, like forage. Like, walleyes are the dumbest fish on the face of the planet. Like, they're not hard to catch. It's finding them that's the hard part, and it always revolves around food. And I've kind of put that towards the bass fishing thing too. Like, it's the same deal. You find the shad, usually you're going to find the bass. Like, so I think that's like definitely been a help for me. Like, the background knowledge that I have on, staying on top of where the forage is helps me in the world of bass fishing as well.
So when you set out for practice, say Wheeler, you're not really going specifically looking for bass. You're looking for bait first.
Usually, yeah. Like, I don't slow down until I see bait in the area. If I know there's bait there, odds are there's bass around. I mean, we're fishing against a fish that has a brain that big. Like, they swim.
Yeah.
That's all they do. And I think, as anglers, we make it way more complicated than it needs to be sometimes. And I'm guilty of it. Like, I mean, we're buying $350 glide baits and stuff like that. Like, it's a fish. It's, it's still a fish if they're not that smart. Not saying that stuff doesn't work, but I think sometimes as anglers, we make it way more complicated than it needs to be. All they need to survive is food and structure.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it. So I'd start with that. I always try to, when I'm running around a new lake, I try to pay attention to where I'm seeing all the forage, and then I start my practice from there. It's a good starting point.
Makes sense. Would you say you're more of a shallow guy, offshore guy, or do you not really have a preference?
I don't really have a preference, but I'd say I'm probably a little better offshore. I don't like, and that probably comes from living here in Sturgeon Bay. Like, we don't beat the bank here. Everything is off the bank. I'd rather go out with my electronics and find them and figure it out that way. I think you have less people that are going to find that deal than if you're on the bank. You drive down the lake and you're fishing the most obvious looking stuff. But
Right.
I think I can beat the bank with the best of them too at times. I mean, if I need to, but that's my problem. I always get drawn offshore, and I'd rather go fish offshore.
You sound like
I'm
somebody
right
else
there.
I know right here next to you.
I'm the same way, buddy. Where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, if they're on the bank, I'll go fish the bank. But like, if they're off the bank, I'd rather be away from the bank as much as possible.
Yeah, that's kind of how I've looked at my practice this year too. Like, I spend more time offshore than on the bank, because I think if you have to go to the bank and fish, you don't need to practice that a lot. That doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, maybe spend a half a day, get an idea of what they're holding on, what they want to bite on, and from there you can run down the lake and see it. But the offshore stuff, like, you need to put in your time and grab and not fish and trust what you're looking for. And that's what happened at Toledo Bend. Unfortunately, day 2, I didn't know a lot about the lake, so I went back to where I caught 4 giants the first day, and I lost one, and that was really all that came together there. But
Right.
yeah, I spend my time offshore looking.
I know Brian Thrift was one of the guys that was saying that, especially in practice, he goes, I'm not going to waste any time going and trying to find them shallow, because if I spend all my time graphing and looking offshore, then I'm doing 2 things at the same time. I'm riding around seeing the bank and seeing high percentage stuff, but I'm also graphing and finding stuff that's offshore. He goes, you can go up on the bank and catch them. He goes, it's way easier to catch them off the bank than it is to take the time to go graph and find them offshore. And that was like something that stuck with me for a long time.
100% true. Yeah, like you're idling around. It doesn't take anything to look up on the shoreline, and that looks kind of cool over there. And you drop a waypoint, you have it.
Yep.
It takes way more time to find those fish offshore, and you can eliminate it. Like, if you fish offshore the whole practice and it's not happening, then you know what you have to do during the tournament.
Yeah, and it takes you 30 seconds to pull that, like, go over, check out that shallow spot, like in a tournament, say, then you're running by it, put trolling motor down, you're like, it looked good from a half a mile away, but this looks like crap on the bank. Trolling motor back up, peace. It doesn't take much time on your day. That's pretty good. So, dude, getting into Lake Wheeler, like, I know you mentioned it was kind of a grinder, but kind of walk us through, what your intentions were in practice, strategy wise, what you were looking for, and then heading into day 1.
So I basically missed 2 days of practice. I came home to fish a smallmouth tournament, because I would have been royally pissed at myself if I missed every smallmouth tournament in Sturgeon Bay in May. And my dad had nothing going on. He's like, you want me to drive you down there? Then you can sleep all night. So I got down there, I had a good night's sleep, started practice, started looking offshore. It's the Tennessee River. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, every part of the Tennessee River is famous for ledge fishing and fishing offshore. So I graphed a little, fished a little, really didn't have any success. And it just seemed like they weren't there yet. But at any day they could be. It was, the water was like, I found up to 88-degree water during practice.
That's cooking.
That's just surface temp, but like it was warm and summer's here. And so I just kept drafting and marking like little sweet spots that I thought they would hold on. And then obviously it's this time of year where you have a shad spawn going on as well. Kept an eye open for shallow stuff that would hold the shad spawn. And I fished the bank a little bit during practice. That wasn't like I really had nothing. I just I scrapped it all together on day one, and I had some grass. I initially thought I'd be fishing the grass during the tournament, and day one I started on a shad spawn. I caught a 3.5 pounder. It's the biggest fish I saw all week. I'm like, sweet, awesome. I got a kicker. Let's go finish out the limit and see where we're at there. And I ran up river and I fished a bunch of grass, and I caught a bunch of like 1-2 to 1/8, and finished off my limit. And I'm like, well, this is no good. This ain't gonna cut it. And it was early. It was like 10 o'clock. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna run down river, and I got some ledges I want to look at. And I pulled up on the first one and threw a swinging rugby head up there and cracked a 6-3 on my first cast. And I'm like, okay, now I'm on the right deal. Like, I got to keep doing this. And actually, I stayed on that spot. I take that back. I left it for a little bit. I couldn't get any more bites. I left it for a half hour. I came back. I caught another one. I left it. I came back. I caught a few more on the swinging rugby jig, and then I picked up a drop shot and I made 4 casts. I caught 4. I had 19 pounds. I'm like, all right, I got to leave this alone because I don't know if I have anything else. And I had a fish that wasn't doing real well. And I looked at my co-angler. I'm like, dude, sorry, like it's an hour before weigh-in, but like we need to get some ice on these fish, keep them alive, because I do know what a half a pound can cost you in one of these tournaments. So we ran in, got ice. Iced them down, put some rejuvenate on them, got them back. They're all happy. So we ran back out and tried to get his last fish, close to the ramp. And then that was it. So I had 19 pounds off of basically one spot on day one. Day 2 came around. I started on a shad spawn deal that I found during practice, nothing. Then I ran to the ledges. I caught a 3.5. I fished for another hour and 20 minutes, not another bite. They weren't really pulling water. It was windy. The water was getting dirty. I'm like, man, I don't know. Like
a tough bass tournament, and they're not pulling water. Shocker.
I ran all the way down to the bottom end of the lake, and I had some grass down there. I'm like, well, at least I know this is going to be clean. Took a little bit to get there. I mean, it was rocking pretty good on day 2. I caught a 1-4. That was the only bite I had in 2 hours. And I'm like, well, this is no good. Like, I got 2 bass in the box. Started running back up river. I'm like, I'm going to stop on these 2 ledges. If I don't get bit there, I'm going to go back up above the bridge, and I'm going to fish some grass that I found during practice. And I caught some on day 1 there, and just finish off my limit, hopefully get a check. I stopped on my best spot. I made 8 casts. I caught 8 in a row. And my 9th cast, I looked over the side of the boat and the water wasn't moving anymore, and it was over. So then I think I weighed like 14 and a half. It all went down in a short period of time on day 2 again.
That's wild.
And yeah, it was crazy. Like, if I'd have been there a couple hours earlier, it could have been really good. I think when I was down the lake, they were pulling water, and I just didn't catch it soon enough.
Well, you said it was rocking. Do you think any of that could have been wind-driven influence from a current standpoint?
Yeah, it could have been. The wind had kind of laid down at that time. But in the morning, I mean, it was rocking, and they were not there. They were not So for whatever reason, I had a little bit of current when I got back there, and I had a half hour. I caught what I caught.
Really fast before you get into the last day. We have a comment here from Anthony Geis, and he's asking, "How are you fishing the rugby head? Is it a slow reel, reel hop?" He said he can't find the right cadence.
I just reel it really slow. Just let it bang off the hard bottom, rocks, gravel, whatever you're fishing it on. You can pause it once in a while, but I never move my rod tip. It's all with the reel. Just a slow reel, and just get that thing crawling around down there.
Sweet. What's the setup for it that you're using in the derb?
On that, I use a 7.3 13 fishing NV medium heavy with 17-pound Suffolk Fluoro, and then I had a cleanup craw, which is a new bait that's coming out. I can't say from who, but it'll be at ICAST. That's where it's going to get launched. And on my jackhammer on the shad spawn deal, I caught them all on a freeloader trailer, which is another one that I can't say who's making it, but it'll be out at ICAST. And like I've caught a lot of fish on those two baits the last couple months I've been down there. It's legit stuff. Like
hell yeah,
that's really all I carry in my boat now. I got a bunch of other shapes too that are coming out. So
heck yeah, I have to say I've never heard of someone drop the bait name and not the brand before. I've heard drop the brand but not the bait name. I like your style.
I gotta do the bait name or Dan Quinn might fire me. But no, there's some cool stuff coming down the road. So
heck yeah, awesome. Well,
but,
dude,
that craw on that swinging rugby head was the deal, and that just came from something. I tied it on the morning of the tournament. I fished a couple derbies on the Mississippi River at La Crosse, and we had a lot of success with that. You know, fishing hard bottom spots on the main channel, and I'm like, man, why don't I need to rig one of those up? Like, it's a confidence thing. And yeah, I caught him on that and a drop shot on the ledges, and then everything on a shad spawn was on a jackhammer. So.
Heck yeah, awesome. Yeah, let's hear about day 3.
So day 3, I was just jacked up. I made the top 10. Never made a top 10 before. Like, I'm just gonna relax and go fishing and have fun. The worst I can do is 10th. You know, I'm sitting in 7th. So we take off, and it was honestly like the coolest thing I've ever experienced, being one of 10 boats, and Brandon Polinick's right in front of me. Like,
yeah, Clark Wendlet.
Clark Wendlet, like guys you look up to in the sport, or you're fishing the same day as they are. You know, it's pretty cool. So I'm like, I'm not going to stress out. I'm just going to go fishing, have fun. Like, I need to catch 22 pounds if I want to win the tournament. And wasn't super confident in doing that, but I knew if I landed on the right stuff, it could happen. Mm-hmm. So I was running downriver, and I had a couple of shell bars that I didn't fish during the tournament. There were other boats on them, and I wheeled into the first one, and the shad were there, and they were up in there busting on them. And I went to work right away. I think I got there at 6:07, 6:20. I had a limit. Like 7-ish, I had like 15 pounds. 7:30, I had almost 19. And then I won't ever forget it, at 8:09, I put a 5 3/4 in the live well. I fist bumped my Marshall. I said, I just won a Bassmaster Open. And it was 8:09. I never upgraded a fish after that. And I won the tournament. Like, trust me, 2 hours later, I was freaking out. I'm like, I need to catch a big one. Like, this isn't going to be enough. But yeah, it all went down in 2 hours in the morning. I landed on them and caught every one of them. It was fun.
That's freaking wild. How's it feel to give Brandon Polinick his second place finish 2 weeks back to back? Did he give you a hard time for that?
Yeah, if you guys watched it when he was up on stage, I heard him in the weigh-in line, and you know, nobody really knows who I am. I'm new to the Opens basically, and he was behind me, and I could hear him. He's like, I got 20 pounds. I weighed them all, and I'm like, calculating everything in my head, and I'm like, pretty sure I got him. And so I weigh in. He's right behind me. He weighs in next, puts his on the scale, and he looked around Hank Weldon. He's like, "Hey, bud, I did not see that one coming." And then shook my hand, and it was pretty cool. Like, I think he thought he had it, and I just kind of slid in there all silent, like, and 21-12.
Sneaky.
Yeah, but very cool. It was cool.
That's awesome, man. Dude, it had to be a really cool experience, especially one doing that, but also like it had to be a little bit nerving though, dropping the bag, having the excitement. You go and you're in the hot seat and you're like, oh crap, Brandon said he had 20. Like,
Yeah.
What if he was just being sly? Like maybe he's got more.
Right? Yeah. Who wouldn't be nervous if Brandon Polnick's coming across the stage right behind him?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at 5 other guys that are hammers too. Like, nobody's a slacker in this deal. And yeah, I guess my feet were twitching a lot, and I didn't even notice it. But that's what I heard from buddies that watched the weigh-in. They're like, "You look a little nervous." I'm like, well, hell yeah, I was nervous.
He was pale. He was just sitting there like, oh, get it over with.
Yeah, just rifle him through and get this done. Like, I don't want to sit here and wait anymore. And then, yeah, when Sam George weighed, he dropped him in the basket and just shook my hand and said, "Nice job." He knew he didn't have enough. I was like,
Damn.
holy shit, like I just won an open. Unreal.
That's awesome, dude. Well, has it even sunk in yet that you're going to next year's classic?
Not really. Like, I just haven't. I've been so busy with. I've had tons of people contacting me for podcasts and articles and all that stuff, and then trying to guide on top of it. And my wife, and I got a 2-year-old daughter at home, and there's just so much going on right now. It really hasn't. It's sunk in a little bit on the drive home, but I'll get there. Like, after Eufaula and things slow down a little bit, I'll have some time to think about it.
I'll have some time to think about it. I love that.
Maybe.
Right now, it's like next task on hand. Get through all these guide trips I've booked. Get my boat ready to go to Eufaula, concentrate on that one. You know, my number one goal is still to make the elites, so we can't forget about that one. And yeah, I'm looking forward to going across the stage at the Classic, though, I can tell you that.
I can only imagine. You're going to have a lot of road time to kind of daydream what that's going to feel like. But,
right,
dude, you got a derb that kind of canceled out that one tough finish this year, and I think you're back on track.
Yeah, for sure. Eufaula was really disappointing, but there's 9 tournaments, so I think you can have 1, maybe 2 of those, you know, triple-digit finishes and still make it. You know, you never know. Like, I think a lot of things are going to change the next. We got 5 left. A lot of things are going to change at the top end of that anglers or 9 EQ anglers, whatever you want to call it, the points race.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see a lot of changes over the next 5 derbies, and I'm looking forward to one of them for sure.
I was going to say,
I get to go smallmouth fishing.
I was gonna say, I was like, usually at the end of them, or like the Northerns, there's at least 2 smallmouth derbies that you had to be looking forward to. But this year, it's like it's like these Southern Opens, basically.
Yeah, we have St. Lawrence, and I guess we go to Watts Bar. That has smallmouths, but I wouldn't really consider that a smallmouth.
Yeah, different strain, pretty much.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wish we were doing like a true Northern swing where we had 3 of them.
For sure.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
It would be nice, especially for the Northern boys, because I mean it's almost becoming harder now. I feel like not just the Opens, but like talking elites, and you can even argue like the BPT for Southern guys to win an AOI. If they keep smallmouth fisheries and the Midwest guys keep this whole train rolling, I mean it's hard for Northern guys to not win.
Right.
But then again, there's been several Southern guys that are becoming really good at smallmouth fishing. I mean, you watch Clark Winlet, that's always in top 10 when it comes to the St. Lawrence or Lake Ontario. Sure. it's cool to see the evolution of region and how anglers do and where they find success. But one thing I wanted to say that I'm sure you thought about that was pretty cool about your win and your story was that your dad drove you down to that event.
Yeah, it was really nice to have him there. Like I didn't have to worry about anything. And I get back at night, he'll go grab me a beer. I can sit in the boat and re-rig rods, concentrate on my fishing stuff. I don't have to cook dinner.
You were
personal assistant. He drove you. He hands you beer. Does he tie your knots too? Like,
I mean, you're from Wisconsin, so it's kind of like you were a kid again, even with the beer.
Absolutely. Like, it was great. Other than I fired him at one point because we had to grab some more beer, and he stopped at a gas station that didn't even sell beer, and I'm like, "You're fired!" Like,
get in the back seat.
2 hours later, I had to hire him back again. So. But no, it was really cool. Like, day 2 was his birthday, and I completely forgot about it.
Oh man!
And when I made the top 10, he came up and gave me a hug, and he's like, "That's the best birthday present I could ever ask for." And I'm like, "Oh, happy birthday!" Like, sorry. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's awesome, dude.
And at Toledo Bend, I had a good finish there, and my buddy Matt Ryberg from Canada came down, and he signed up as a co-angler. And end of the day, he's like, "You do your work, I'll cook, I'll take care of everything else. You just concentrate on your fishing." And like, it definitely helps because you don't have to,
right?
You don't have to worry about everything else when you get in after, most guys fish dark to dark, and you only get so many days of practice. You need to take advantage of that. By the time you get in, you're just shot. You don't want to do anything. So having somebody there definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, dude, look at people talk about that support system, how important that is for some anglers and being consistently successful over time. I mean, look at the Brandon Poliniks, the who, like, I think Wheeler does it as well. Like the guys that go and travel with their families that, like for BP, like I'm watching his wife back him down the ramp, before and after events, like being on the road with them, not having to miss your kid because you're going to get off the water, you're going to see him that day. That kind of speaks to being able to focus way more than you would if it was the other way around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But dude, we have a funny question here in the comments for you. And they're asking how much was your first bar tab after your W?
Actually, didn't even go to one. I got in the truck and we drove home, and I was so jacked up I didn't even sleep that night, and found out my wife was throwing a party. We call this the warehouse. We have the bar on the other side, and I found out she's throwing a party for the win, and had a bunch of friends and family drive, across the state to come hang out. And I was like dead ass tired. I'm like, I'm gonna have 2 beers and I'm gonna be out. Like, so we lay my daughter down for a nap every day at noon. So I went and took a nap with my daughter, got a couple hours sleep in, and then we had a party here. And so I didn't have a bar tab, but I did have a party tab that I dumped a few hundo on that. But
there you go.
Came out of your pocket. It was a party for you, but you paid for it, Adam.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, you're the one that won $51,000. You can pay for it.
Yeah. I believe that's also just called being a dad.
Yeah. I guess it's okay. I can pay for a
party.
Yeah. You get to go travel around to fish. They can let you pay for a party.
Absolutely. So it was fun. Like, thanks to everybody that showed up for that. It was kind of last minute, but got to hang out with a bunch of friends and celebrate a little bit, kick back and relax. It was nice.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, congrats again on the win. It's freaking awesome seeing another Northerner in the Classic, and the opportunity for more people to make me work on the last day of the Classic and make me write a press release. And I hope to be writing a press release next year at the Classic for you.
I hope so too.
But dude, backtrack a little bit. How'd you do at the Sturgeon Bay Open?
I missed the Open. That
Oh,
was
okay.
the same time as Wheeler. I fished the Wisco tournament. We have Chad Adrian's. He passed away from cancer a couple years ago, but there's a memorial tournament for him that Wisco Bass puts on, and I think we had like 84 boats in it or something. Not a bad turnout. Good payout. So I fished that one with my father-in-law, and day one we had 20. We weighed 28.6 for 5. And like I honestly, we got up to 27, and I'm like, I don't want to fish any of this stuff anymore because like we're gonna be leading with 27 the way practice went. We came in and weighed in. We had 28.6. We ended up we were 4th after day one, and 31.5 was leading in. And there was like 1,026 bags right behind us, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like Sturgeon Bay showed out again. Like this place is amazing. Just when you think it's not going to be very good, it shows out, and there's so many big smallmouths in this place. It's unreal.
There's a peculiar pattern with smallmouth. It seems like when one person catches a giant smallie, it's like they all in the lake. Every one of them in the lake decides to bite on the same exact day.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
just for whatever reason, like if you know that you have a bag, you better be prepared to see like more big bags coming because they just all bite on the same day. It's just wild.
Yeah.
Smallmouth are different animals. I love
That is a true thing if you think about it. Like, because day two, we only weighed 22 something on day two. Like the fishing was significantly worse than the first day, and the wind finally blew. We didn't have wind for like 5 days, and normally here you want to have wind to get them to feed.
Mhm.
And so everybody's all excited. We're finally going to have some wind out of the northeast, and they're going to be firing. It's going to be even better than day one. And it was the total opposite. Like I think it freaked them out because we went so many days without wind. And everybody kind of struggled that day. Weights were down from what they were on day one. I think we ended up sliding back to 7th, but whatever. I'll take it. I'll take every top 10 I can get here. So,
Yeah.
but I had a blast. It was fun. Like smallmouth fishing is truly like what I love to do the most. And every
for
chance
sure.
I get to go crack on brown bass, I'm going.
Yeah, you're pretty lucky you're a guide because you get to do it all the time.
Yeah, every day. Other than, not every day is good. Today, I don't want to admit it, but I had an 8-hour trip and we caught 3 bass all day. Terrible.
It happens. It
The
happens.
worst day I've ever seen here in my life. They're acting weird and doing weird stuff, and it is what it is. You don't catch them every day.
What do you think is the reason for it?
I have no idea. They've kind of been goofy all year. When I've been home fishing for them, they've just been acting weird.
They knew you were back in the state. Like Adam's
Yeah,
back. Don't eat.
In fact, you got a blue trophy. We're going to make it real tough for him.
Close your mouth. Don't bite.
Yeah, I mean that's what people say, right? I mean, fishing humbles you.
Yeah. Yeah, you go from I just won an open. I'm gonna go out and guide with some of my good customers today, and we caught 3 bass. Somebody shoot me, like this is terrible. I'm like, how does this even happen?
And tomorrow, because they're smallmouth, you could have your best day of guiding.
Oh yeah.
Because-
Tomorrow we'll probably whack on them. Just how it goes. But they're getting a little funk here. It seems like this time of year, like after that open is here, like the next 2 or 3 days, they just, I don't know if it's from all the boats that have been sitting over them or what, but they get kind of funky, and then all of a sudden they'll turn back on again, and then it's a whack fest.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense though with that amount of pressure. I mean, Andy, you've seen it on Erie and Ontario and things of that nature. We've seen where it's, you think with the amount of fish there and how big the body of water is that's not possible. But when you get a lot of boats for that consistent period of time, it makes sense that it could happen. But I mean, for you guys, are they on bed now?
I saw a couple on beds today. There were actually a lot of empty beds today, like they pulled off. And it was 80 degrees here today. Like I don't understand why they would have pulled off. The water finally warmed up.
You might have some upwelling going on too.
What's
Sometimes. Upwelling is where the lake will like almost flip and it'll push
that?
cold
Oh,
water
yeah.
to the surface. So the surface temp will be hot, but underneath will be slightly cooler than average, and it makes it even.
Yeah, that I definitely believe in that. Like every year, it seems like everybody's like, "Where are all the bass? They should all be here. The water's 55 degrees, and like go down 2 feet. It's like 42. Like they don't even know that it's springtime or it's warm out yet. Like, and then all of a sudden, like usually when we get a big wind, all that water mixes up, and then they feel it. Especially if we get one that's blowing offshore, and then they get a taste for that warmth. And you go out the next day and the water temp's 42 degrees, but that's what it is from the top to the bottom.
And the fish are
polluted everywhere.
Yeah.
And then they come in. I mean, they don't know that surface water is warm. They don't feel that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge common misconception between a lot of bass anglers. They're always like, I can't believe today was so tough. It's a spring, surface temp 61 degrees. And I'm like, yeah, your top foot might be 61 degrees. There was ice on the lake 3 days ago. Like,
right. Yeah.
2 weeks ago. Like, what are you, slow down. Like, they're not there yet. They're still out in 40 foot of water in their winter hole.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a while before they feel that warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's definitely an experience thing. Like you have to go through that a few times to understand that, hey, think about, 2 days ago, I was whacking them and it was 44 degrees and all magically it's 60s, at least surface temp. Like, hey, they're probably not going to be here just yet. Like, I need to give this some time, backtrack a little bit. But there's definitely times that you see that happen, and it happens in all of our Finger Lakes, at least here in New York, and it can get you excited a little too early.
Yeah.
And the fish always get funky too when you get that sudden spike in surface temp. They just don't like to eat, in my opinion. But then
that's the most frustrating thing ever is when they're all sitting like subsurface, like a foot down. You can see all of them. And you could like poke them with your rod tip, and they won't move.
Yeah, they're just sitting there. They're sitting there trying to get warm.
Yeah.
Like I've been freezing all winter, laying on this big rock with my whole family, and like now the sun's out. I just want to warm up.
Just like
it's like you're at a football game and there's like the standing heaters and there's just a crowd of people.
Yeah, that's what the bass are doing.
Yeah, it's just not moving. They're like, warm, thank God, it's over.
Yeah, the one thing I've learned when you get a really warm day, like a week or two after ice, is you need it to blow with it in order for those fish to bite. Like if it's just sunny and slick calm, just stay home. Especially that early. It's just, or just spend time and just drive around the lake and look for stuff for later, because you're not going to be very productive in catching usually.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Nope, I agree with you 100% there. I've seen it happen every year here.
We got a question here from Mr. Higgs, and he's asking, what are your go-to 3 baits for summer smallmouth and grass lakes?
Never fished a smallmouth in a grass lake.
Nothing like Minnesota, those big bowls or anything like that? You don't have those in Wisco?
Mm-mm. No, everything we have here is traditional rock sand stuff. I guess like growing up by Minocqua and stuff, I fished a few tournaments up there, and we catch them in some grass there. But that's like, I guess my favorite was like a wacky rig fry worm. I caught a lot on that. And I bet you could catch them on a jackhammer or cranking like a DT really fast up above them.
Okay.
And burning it.
Yeah.
That's the 3 things I would do.
Sounds like fun.
Or drop shot too, like if it's sandgrass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've honestly never like fished smallmouth in grass that much. It's not something I've ever ran into.
Right. And it's probably looking for grass lines too. Like if it's a big bowl and has a deep grass line, probably lucky to find them there.
Yeah, like any grass fishing, try to find something different, an edge, where 2 types of grasses meet. Like look for all those transition lines. That's where they're going to be. And then, smallmouths are aggressive animals. Like they burn something past their face and trigger them to bite. Like they're, for the most part, they're they're way less prissy than largemouths. Largemouths suck. Like they just you get an attitude. Like they don't go anywhere. They don't move, but they get an attitude some days, and they just don't want to bite. And smallmouths generally move a lot. They're following the forage and staying with it. So you got to move a lot to find them, and they're generally easy to catch. They're more aggressive. That makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Sam, I think one of my favorite grass lake smallmouth techniques is topwater. Like if you can just find shad, cover a ton of water. So if you find a grass flat that has a hard edge, easy access to deep water, maybe some rock on it, and you got some shad up there in a topwater first thing in the morning, you're almost guaranteed to catch big smallmouth doing that. And the bite will be extremely explosive, especially if it's like 75-degree surface temps. It's probably the most heartbreaking but fun way to do it, in my opinion.
For sure. We got a lot of lakes like that are just big bowls, grass, no structure or anything on bottom besides grass lines, and they just roam and chase, which sounds exactly like you guys. Like after the spawn, they're just Cisco chasers out there, right? Smelt. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of smelt. The smelt populate. Like a lot of people say that this fishery is going downhill, and there's not as many bass, and whatever. Okay, fine. Like I think it's still just as healthy, if not healthier, than it's ever been. But they have changed their ways. There's more smelt in here than I've ever seen. And
so they're feeding up more.
They'll go wherever they want.
Yeah.
I mean, and how are you going to target them here? I mean, you can't. There's nothing to narrow it down. Like they can go out to 100 feet of water and chase smelt their whole life. And they come in to spawn, and all of a sudden there's bass everywhere. And they come in and spawn, and then they leave again, and then it's like, well, there's no bass in this lake. But I think that it's all forage related. Like they're out chasing smelt, and you just don't see as many on structure as you used to.
Do you think something like that could potentially help prepare you for like any of the herring lakes?
Yeah. I mean, roaming around chasing bait chasers. That's
pretty on par.
Wish I had more time to like go out and try some stuff. It's hard to go out and do that when you're guiding. Like just go on a whim and go try something crazy. But this summer I'll get a little free time to go experiment with a few things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Andy, you got anything left for Adam here before we hit him with our last questions?
No, I just thought it was interesting that you brought up the smell point, because I've noticed on my side of Lake Erie, there's a lot more bait fish than there's been in the last like 4 or 5 years. In the last 2 specifically, and I've been finding that the only way I can get a lot of fish to eat is to make them come up and eat, as opposed to leaving it parallel in their face, where a lot of people do. And I think that might also be something that you could mess around with where you're at, is if there's bait fish in the area in like that 30 to 50 foot range, because I'm sure that's where a lot of your smallmouth live in the summer. Try making them come up. You've probably done it, but like go to like a 3-foot leader with a minnow bait and see if they'll come up and come out of the rock and eat. Like
I've already tried a few.
I figured that.
I know it works, and we'll just keep that on the down low for now. We'll watch Gussie win the classic. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's right.
Same thing.
Let him take all the hype.
Yeah, for sure. Like I did have one day last summer. There were a bunch sitting on boulders in like 28 to 32 feet of water, and you would throw a tube at them, catch a couple, throw a drop shot, get a couple, and hang a minnow on a smeltinator above their head, and they'd come roaring up and eat it. So.
Just go crazy. Well, and I think what he's done
right
too.
what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of what Gussie's done too, but one, made it popular, but 2, exposed that that's not just a cold water bait. Like you can use that all times of the year.
Yeah. When they're feeding on bait and not like gobies and crawfish stuff, like when they're feeding on, I'd call it white bait. Like shad, herring, Cisco, smelt, any of that stuff like that is definitely something that plays. Especially with like forward facing sonar, it makes it. We used to have to just drop it on top of them. Like now you can pitch it to them, and it makes you way more efficient. You know, I just sit and stare at my Humminbird live. I'll make like 40 to 50 foot pitches and just swim it back.
It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. I've done a little bit of it down south too, and I think it's something that will play out sometime down there.
I mean, we're seeing it start to happen in places we never would have thought to happen, where it's the Tennessee River, Jason Curd on Lay Lake. Like we're seeing it happen. And, you know, Gussie's told us he's tried it in places we never, ever would have thought of him trying that thing. And he said just, you know, be on the lookout for it. I mean, he kind of called it, saying that that's going to be the hot bait this year from a forward-facing standpoint. And I think so far he's correct. But it's pretty cool to see more and more people getting with that trend, which is it's super. I love that bite. I could throw that all dang day.
But, yeah, you're casting at a fish instead of just, even if you make 20 casts in a day and you hook up on 18 of them, like, why would you go do anything else?
Yeah, you have to hold your rod, just sit there. So much better.
Wasting your time doing other stuff. Like, you're way more efficient if you can go and cast to a fish. I know, like, everybody's watching people stare at the graphs is boring, but that's technology, and wait, the game's going to change even more. Like, I can only imagine 5 years from now, like, what are we going to, like, stare down at the floor of our boat and, like, be able to see the fish, like, electronically around our boat? I don't know. Like, you know, stuff like that's coming. Like, the game's changing constantly, and you got to keep up with it.
We're going to have Humminbird glasses where it's just going to be infrared. You're going to see a red blob, and it's going to be like, it's 20 foot down, and you're going to be able to picture that with your glasses. That's what it's going to be. Yeah.
And will it chirp you whenever you make a bad cast?
Yeah, you'll say that for your partner.
Yeah.
Something's got to stay the same.
Man.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Well, dude, for real, thank you so much for taking time out. I know your schedule is busy as all get out, so we appreciate you taking time to come talk with us. But, man, we got one more question left for you just to cap off the show. It's a fun one we like to ask everybody that's new to the show. And honestly, Andy, I don't think we've been able to ask this for a little while.
Quite some time.
Yeah. And that question is, Adam, if you were to sit down, have a steak and a beer with 3 different individuals, they don't have to be in the fishing industry. They could be alive 1,000 years ago or now. It doesn't matter. What 3 individuals would you like to invite, have a steak and a beer and chat with?
Oh, man. Well, I don't really talk to anybody that doesn't fish, so it's going to be 3 people that fish.
My man.
I want to sit down and drink some Busch Lights with Lee Livesey one day.
Hell yeah.
And I'd go sit down and drink a beer with J.H. Kirk, because he's a good friend of mine, and we don't get to do that anymore because we're both busy at different times. And I don't know. I'm going to go have a beer with Dave Mercer at the Bassmaster.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
How's that for 3?
Yeah, I love that 3. That's a rowdy 3, it sounds like.
I mean, I'd sit down and drink a beer with just about anybody, so I mean, you go.
They're buying. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Dude, appreciate you again taking time out. It's been good talking with you, and obviously we'll keep cheering you on throughout the Opens, and man, we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Take care. Good luck.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Peace. That was good. Dude, if I had $1 for how many guys that we've had, one in the Midwest, I mean, we had a lot on the show from the Midwest, but $1 for how many of them have talked about talked highly of Adam. There's people that are calling shots right now that, you know, there's guys come from the Midwest that we're going to see at the top of the game. Adam's one of them here. Noah Schultz is another one I'm always hearing about. There's a lot of guys that haven't made the jump or just now making the jump that I think are making some hay, and it's pretty cool to see that happen. And it's cool to see some more guys from the Northeast start getting out there from our neck of the woods. But dude, I got to give a little shout out. So while I was checking and the update on the Open standings, our boy Mr. Keith Tuma sitting hot in 7th right now.
Ooh, nice.
That's right. Shout out to our boy Mr. Keith Tuma. For you guys know, he's the actual host of Serious Angler. We're just the stand-ins for him. He comes in every couple times throughout the year.
Just to check in on us, make sure we're doing our job right.
He's the boss. He's head honcho. But no, seriously, shout out to him. It's cool to see a few guys that are really grinding, making that thing happen.
Absolutely.
Man, I think it's finally John Garrett's year too. He's sitting in 1st right now. I don't want to jinx him.
Fingers crossed for that guy.
He freaking deserves it. Holy crap! But great show with Adam, dude. I mean, freaking hammer. Yeah. Not just. I mean, I think it's a statement for him and himself too. That winning on Wheeler, but the guy is a freaking smallmouth guru. I think this is just going to keep patting that confidence for wherever he goes, and I have a mad respect for the guys that go down. There's a thing between general info and there's a thing between some of the info that's going on now that's being passed around. Like a guy that just goes, hey, what kind of stage are they in? Like, are they past the spawn, that type of deal? Like, how does the lake operate? Forage, small things like, small strategy stuff. That is what it is. I think everybody gets that. It's the, the heavy information guys that are avoiding that and going on pure instinct how to fish. I respect the hell out of that.
Me too. It takes a lot to have no preconceived notions about a lake and just show up and then be able to pull off a blue trophy. That's pretty impressive.
Well, and I think that's the way you learn. If you show up to a body of water and you're in the DMs or you're talking with whether it be guides or buddies down there and they're telling you what to go do and you're going to mimic what they told you to do, at the end of the day, whether you catch them or not, what have you learned? You might have learned a thing or two based on what they told you, but what you could learn doing that yourself and learning the curve yourself on that body of water is completely different. The amount of information you learn from doing it yourself.
Yep.
It's more frustrating and it takes longer, but it's well damn worth it at the end.
Yeah, because then the spots you're fishing are yours and you're not fishing someone else's history.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because I mean, dude, I don't know about you. And I would say you'd be in the same boat as in this mindset. But like if I were to go and fish an event and all I get is information, like let's say somebody sends me some waypoints, whether I practice or not, they send me a waypoint and I go win off that waypoint. I feel like I didn't earn that.
Yeah.
I honestly, it wouldn't feel right. It would not sit well with me. I don't know if people differ from that. I mean, feel free folks, like, especially if you're on YouTube or if you're listening, feel free to DM us if you have any strong opinions for or against this, but I don't know. I feel like that's just kind of how I operate. I feel like you didn't put any effort in, you know what I mean? Legal or not.
Yeah, so like it's an interesting spot. Like whenever I ask somebody for information, I'm not going to say I don't ask for information.
I'll say there's a difference between fun fishing and tournament fishing.
Yes, but like even in a tournament, like I'm not really asking for spots. I just want to know what to look for. Like, is it a grass? Like, are they in a certain type of grass? Are they shallow? Are they deep? Like, I just want clues, and then I want to go out and put my own pattern together. And what I find a lot of times when I ask for information, I end up fishing what I want to fish anyways, and it's something completely different. So, and that's where it comes down to is like, I think more important pieces of information would be like, are they eating shad? Are they on a bluegill spawn? Like, is it a crayfish eatery? Like, and I think that's more important information than where the fish live because there's so many bass in these lakes that we don't even know exist and that we now are finding because of forward-facing sonar, inside scan, and putting the time in and learning these lakes and how deep fish actually go or how shallow they might live and stuff that we never even seen. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I think there's definitely something to like say guys that are traveling with each other that are all fishing the opens and giving each other tidbits to like help them be like just that one small variable that they need to catch more fish, maybe where they're at in their spot. That stuff I can get with. I can't do it personally because it makes me fish worse. I don't like to talk to people during events. I don't like info. I feel like I fish worse with that. But there's an info side of like your inner circle that actually I think can benefit you. Like you and I share all of our info for the most part.
Yeah.
Like because I think you and I riff-raff off of it where like what you just said, I'll tell you on a lake that I was just at, how I was catching them, that sort of thing. You'll go there and you'll put your own spin on it. And I think that's something that's beneficial because you and I learned from that. Like we call each other all the time, learning of like, hey, I figured out this tidbit today.
Yeah.
And then you'll go try it and be like, yeah, but I figured out something better. Like I think that is good. It's the I wanted to specify like when I'm saying this no info thing, I'm more than like the guys that are literally somebody that hasn't talked to you in 2 years, but they'll slide in your DMs, be like, hey, where are you catching them on? Where are we catching them on this lake? You know, that sort of thing. I don't like that. Or guys that go through guides.
Yeah.
Nothing against you guide folk, like bringing you business, but like as a tournament angler, whether it's legal or not, dude, it just feels so shady to me going through a guide.
Yeah, that part's interesting. Unless like the guide is one of your good friends and you talk to them all the time and it's not illegal, then sure, by all
You know what
means.
it feels like? The guys that go through guides before an event or before a cutoff, you know what it feels like? It feels like when you go in to take a test, you go into a room and you see the test with all the answers filled in. You scan the test, you see all the answers that are filled in, and then you go and take the test. That's what that feels like to me.
Yeah.
I might be way off on there. People feel free to rebuttal. Anything we say in the show, feel free to argue it. We'll gladly have a mature debate with beers in hand over anything we talk about on the show.
So, I mean, like hiring a guide, like let's say off limits is 45 days before an event. That lake is going to change so much in 45 days. What that guide showed you probably is not the pattern that is working in 45 days, unless you're on like a very specific body of water. But, yeah, it's just, then you have guys that go out and pre-practice, right? And they're like, I really whacked him here 45 days ago before cutoff, and I don't understand why I couldn't catch him during the tournament, and they're fishing all the same stuff they practiced on 45 days prior, and they don't want to look for anything because they have all these preconceived notions like practice is practice. You're going to look. You're not going to catch until you actually have to catch.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as bass fishermen, I think there's a big difference between knowing where we can catch bass and how big those bass are possibly going to be from catching them in practice and then striking out during the derby. Like there's a huge difference between that. And there's practice heroes and then there's derby winners, and it's usually not the same person.
No, usually the derby winners always have a god awful practice.
Usually the derby winners like, yeah, I had 2 bites all practice and I only made 35 casts, but I'm not going to tell you that. But I only had 2 bites and there were 2 pounders. So that's probably not where I'm fishing. But yeah. And usually I feel like those guys literally made a cast at something they're not going to fish during the tournament just because it looked
to test it
and they wanted to see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. That's very true.
Yeah. So
it's either the guys that you hear have horrible practice. They're on Instagram saying, horrible practice. No,
22
what I'm going to do
21
tomorrow.
pounds, 19. It's like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then there's the guys that are off the water by like 10 o'clock. They're like, oh God. You're like, oh, he's on them. So when they go try something, they pluck one good one. Okay. Bye. See you.
Day 3 of practice and they're at the golf course by noon. You're like, oh, he's about to wreck them.
Yeah. If they're at the bar before dinner, like there's a fat chance they're going to do pretty good.
Yeah. Fishing is a funny sport. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of heartache, and like today my guy like with Sean out there, right? Like we're out there and we caught him on the spot where we caught him yesterday for about 30 minutes, and then we had to go explore and try a bunch of different stuff. So basically I ran all new water today with Sean that I haven't fished yet this year, and we were able to pluck fish. So it's just being open-minded and understanding conditions. The biggest thing that changed was the wind direction. So it made the bait fish move, and we just had to find the bait fish, and then we caught them. So
Heard that.
yeah,
Heck yeah, dude.
that's all.
Well, great show tonight. Awesome time with Mr. Adam Rasmussen. Encourage you guys to go follow along. If you're traveling to the Midwest, if you're from the Midwest, go look up. He's got his guide where he's got the link to his guide business on there. Go book a trip. Great dude. Obviously a hammer. But Andy, great show tonight. Coming up on Friday's episode, we have Mr. Will Davis Jr., who won on Lay Lake, coming on the show. And we have a really cool show coming next Tuesday. We're gonna really preview this one way ahead. We got it scheduled. We already got it booked. It's gonna be awesome. We got Mr. Polish Pete from Omnia Fishing coming on with the Technological Angler. We're gonna have a techie show talking about different electronics. As well, we're gonna have some stuff to give away to you guys. So next week from today, the Tuesday Night Live for next week, we're gonna have a pretty cool show set up for you guys. But Will Davis this coming Friday. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Andy, you got anything else for the folks? Any dates coming up if people want to go catch some smallmouth?
July, August, September, October will be the next chance.
I have a few months
for you to catch those smallmouth. Dates in October are pretty limited, as are July and August. I'm gonna take a little bit of break and leave the summer smallmouth kind of alone. I'll mess around with them if guys want to go out, but September would be the month that you would want to book a trip. It's going to be good weather usually in September, and you can catch some really big smallmouth. They tend to be kind of finicky, but when we're on the water every day, we almost always have an inkling of an idea of what's going on, so we can usually find them.
Heck yeah. We have a comment on YouTube from Mr. Higgs asking, do you guys have a Omnia code? Yes, sir. So we have two different ones. And so for folks, whether you're listening or watching on YouTube right now, if you're looking to get fishing tackle, gear, etc., terminal tackle, the whole 9 yards, Omnia has a massive selection. If it's your first ever order with us, you have a one-time use code called Serious First, all caps Serious First. Gets you 15% off. It's a one-time use. And then you can do Serious 10 for 10% off, and you can use that unlimited times after that first order. So we have all that down in the show notes for you guys. It's in every show. All of our discount codes to all of our partners are always down there for you guys to take advantage of, save money on some amazing products. So be sure to go use that, especially with the season's changing. Tackle is ever changing, and we'll be changing some things up as the fish change. So great time to get over, put an order in. But again, those discount codes are down below. Feel free to take advantage of them. But Andy, great show tonight. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.